sedikit biografi Tan Sri. I know everybody is looking forward to meet you today and to listen to your experience as well as your sharing session so that all of us can learn from you. And for your information, this is actually a CAP program in collaboration with UMK under the program called UNILeeB, University Leaders for Entrepreneurship Education. But we also invite public to join. Seems like it's going to become a full house. So before we begin, sedikit biografi Tan Sri. Everybody knows Tan Sri is the 10th Vice Chancellor of UM since 2008 sehingga 2013. Dan beliau juga merupakan founder, president dan CEO of Multimedia University and serving multimedia for 11 years. And also he's before this also CEO for Unity College International, I think founder as well, I suppose. Dan banyak lagi lah pengalaman Tan Sri dalam higher education. And currently he is a chairman for lembaga LPU for UPM. Okay, so that's how vast is actually his experience in leadership for higher education. So without further ado, Tan Sri, actually we give 1 hour for you to speak on your experience, your whatever advice, your dilemma being as leaders. And also we open for another hour for the participants to ask questions. So participant can ask question personally to Tan Sri. I know many of you Miss Tan Sri, kalau nak introduce yourself personally, you can ask through this Google Meet, as well as you can also write down at the chat. So our moderators will read your question. Okay. I think kita allow Tan Sri untuk mulakan sesi. Silakan Tan Sri, the floor is yours.
Okay, terima kasih Prof. Nik Mairan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good afternoon. I think sound that ada. Okay. Now, first of all, thank you very much, Prof. Nik Mairan, also to ACAP and juga UMK for inviting me to give this session. And also welcome to everybody who are online watching me right now. I must admit that I feel very awkward sitting down and giving a talk because I've never done this before. Because normally when I give a talk, I will stand up and I try to be interactive. But now I'm sitting down, so I'll try my best. Of course, this is bulan puasa juga, so in but nevertheless, I have some slides to share with you and some ideas on what a leader should be in managing higher learning institutions. Next slide. I'd like to start off by pointing out certain very important points about being an academic. Yeah? So I'm putting on my next slide now. Next slide. Okay, I hope you can see this slide. The title is First Principle of University Leadership Success. If any one of you academics, especially young leaders, you are thinking of taking up a position after some time to be a head of department or to be a dean and so on, let me just remind you that actually our first duty of being appointed as an academic of a university is not those positions. Before you ever attempt to become a dean or a leader, a VC and so on, please build up your academic base. Make sure when you're appointed as an academic, you are actually one academic who actually performs. You are able to do your research well, you're able to do your teaching well, you're able to connect with industry, you're able to bring to society your expertise, your experience, and so on. You must not start off by thinking that you want to be a dean or a head and so on. So that's the first thing I must remind all of you. Secondly, you must actually support academic excellence in your institution. Do not be among those who are there to prevent the achievement of academic excellence. This means that you must be an agent to bring excellence in teaching, in research, in connection with industry, in serving the nation dan sebagainya. You must support this wholeheartedly and support it strongly. And thirdly, also, when you are an academic and when you want to rise to become a leader, you must help to develop other people as well. It must not be just yourself. So you must try your best to make sure that others also develop. Okay, and hopefully that one day they will even become leaders of institutions and so on. So these three things we must be very clear. Never make the position of an admin job in an institution to be your dream. Never. You must be someone who wants to make sure that you're recognized in your field, that you're able to do high quality research, you're able to do high quality teaching and so on. This is above everything. So do not ever crave for an admin job. Do not campaign for you to get a certain position in the system. Again, and another thing, do not fight to get Datuk Ship, Tan Sri Ship, and all this, please. Because I don't understand why there are some who really wants this title. And I think this title should come when they should come. And hopefully that some of these titles come to you even without you asking or expecting it. I think it should be like that rather than you every year attempt by filling up the form, asking people to support you dan sebagainya. And lastly, be a real person, stand on your ground, stand on your feet. Do not try to rub shoulders in order to be recognized dan sebagainya. Let your contributions, let your whatever you do be recognized by itself rather than you want to mix around so that people know you and then you get whatever you want. Okay, so I like to start off my talk this afternoon by just laying out certain of these fundamentals that I want to share with everybody, because the idea of coming into a university and become academic is not to get positions, but is to create the academic excellence within the system, and in the first place, academic excellence in yourself. Next. Now, talking about university leadership, I think these are some of the main points that I hope is in the person before they can rise to become a leader. So again, I want to re-emphasize the fact that you must have a proven academic and research track record, right? We want to see your ISI journal papers. We should see your citations, your age index, the research groups that you have set up, the funds that you have brought in, the international networking that you have established. So all this must be seen, must be recognized, and not only that you are a great teacher, that students like your teaching and love to attend your lectures, and then you are able to connect with industry, you are able to connect with society, and to bring whatever you you discover to society and try to make sure that this is useful to industry and so on. So this is the first thing. One shouldn't try to be a leader without these fundamentals in you. Secondly, I like to stress this very, very strongly, ethics and professionalism. One should not try to do things where you actually exhibit poor ethics in terms of your work. You use other people's work and claim it's like your work. And not only that, when you are in position of power, you abuse those positions. You make decisions which favor certain groups that has connection with you, that support you, and so on. In fact, if possible, find an opportunity not to be in a decision to make to be in a position not to make decision when it comes to tenders and so on. Stay away if you can, such that there is no conflict of interest and sebagainya. This is very important, and I think it is extremely important that we create a generation of intellectuals. We create a young generation of graduates from our university where they hate corruption. They hate all this embezzlement. They hate all this hanky-panky. This is very, very important. We must not forgive people for being corrupted. So I think it's very important. This is something that we must never compromise. Thirdly, we need leaders who are non-conformists. Non-conformist doesn't mean that you always break the law, you break the rules. But we need people who goes out of the way to come up with new ideas, such that those ideas can bring up the system to a higher level. You make sure that things can perform better. You can gain much more that from those new ideas. I am not saying at all that being non-conformist that you actually disrupt everything and very often things stall when you are around as sebagainya, tidak. But you are one who take things to a higher level with new ideas. This is very important because we do not want leaders where we can't see their ideas, that nothing much comes out of their leadership, you see. Fourthly, of course, we need people with high energy, people who are very hardworking, who are never tired of doing their work, bringing changes, performing better dan sebagainya. And we need people who set their own KPIs higher and higher, such that it will bring the university to be very competitive and they achieve new milestones all the time. So we need a person who is very much performance driven. Fifth, highly courageous and risk takers. To be honest, this is extremely important because if we have leaders who are not willing to be brave to do things, to face the board, to face authorities in order to bring up the organization, then you cannot really be a great leader. You must be willing to take risks. Okay, risk taking is extremely important, which means that even if you have to lose your position, your job, but because you want to take the system higher, the system better dan sebagainya, you're willing to stick up your neck. Sticking up your neck could mean you losing your position, you becoming unpopular dan sebagainya, but all in the name of bringing positive changes, bringing higher level of achievement dan sebagainya. We need leaders like that. All right, and I will give you examples of some of this when I was Vice Chancellor and President dan sebagainya. Next is being a leader, you will always find resistance, you will find problems before you. But despite all this, you must be able to bring the system, the institution forward, despite all the resistance. You cannot give excuses why you cannot do this, why you cannot achieve that. Because at the end of the day, many years after you have left your job, people will evaluate how you have performed, and people will know what you have done right, what you have done wrong, and people will make up their mind about your actual track record. So giving excuses doesn't help, because nobody will ever want to remember what are the excuses you gave. There's no point. Most important is achieve the milestones, achieve the KPIs that you have set. I put the statement there, never worried to lose position, and I sincerely mean this, that if you have to take certain action, you have to do certain things, it could mean losing your job. Well, a real leader will be prepared to lose their job. And lastly, business venture and entrepreneurship. We are living in an era where increasingly leaders have to be much more entrepreneurial, much more willing and brave to go into business dan sebagainya. While we want the leaders to be really good in their academic work, in their research dan sebagainya, but I really think now, looking at the current world situation, looking at our own the challenges in our country, especially with the pandemic dan sebagainya, we need leaders who are entrepreneurs, leaders who can bring money into the system. I really disagree with whoever says that it is not the job of vice chancellors, or it is not the job of board members to find money. This is absolutely wrong, and I think the government should look into this issue seriously, because often I've heard from board members dan sebagainya, they don't think that it is their job to bring in money. So KPIs, I think, should be set in terms of setting up endowments dan sebagainya by the board, by the university management dan sebagainya. But we must create a system, we must create policies dan sebagainya that will enable them to actually work to get the funds for the university. It cannot be like before. Then, which also means that I'm saying that the current structure of the university boards dan sebagainya has to change drastically also. Especially when we talk about trying to amend AUKU dan sebagainya, and coming up with a new act for both public and private university. I think these are certain aspects that you must really review, so such that it will enable university management and board members to look more into being entrepreneur and bringing in funds into the university. Next slide. Now, I just want to, because this is sharing session, when I put up these slides, it does not mean that I'm trying to show off what I was able to do, but just entirely sharing. I'm very worried to put up these things. Tapi I think by putting up this thing, I can share a few of the problems that I had and what are the challenges that I've go through. You see, I started off as an academic in 82, but by 1992, I was already appointed full professor and as Dean of Engineering in UM. Okay, it is quite well known those days that the engineering faculty UM is one of the oldest faculties in the university, alongside with the Faculty of Arts and Social Science. And it has been frequently said at that time that this is the hardest faculty to change, people not willing to venture into new programs and sebagainya. So knowing that those were the problems at that time, and as Dean of Engineering, I actually introduced this set of programs there. Before that, there were the 4 traditional disciplines: electrical, mechanical, civil, and chemical. But I introduced this new set of engineering programs, and of course, you all can imagine the kind of resistance I get at the department level, at the faculty level. All kinds of excuses are given why we need more time to introduce this program, because we don't have expertise lah, we don't have money to create new labs dan sebagainya. But I don't want to listen to any of that. All I want to know is that we have to progress, we have to bring in new programs, and I push the agenda, and while pushing I have to quarrel with some professors dan sebagainya. At the end it was done. Okay. And not only that, currently there is a Faculty of Built Environment, the UM, and it actually started from the Faculty of Engineering. And I still remember starting off 2 programs, Bachelor Architecture and Bachelor Quantity Surveying. But because, the engineering people at that point of time was not very happy to prepare the syllabus for the architecture program, the quantity surveying program. I still remember I worked with the secretary of the Persatuan Architect Malaysia, and I said, look, I'm not going to hire anybody. I am going to personally come up with the syllabus for the Bachelor Architecture program. I actually wrote it actually. And how did I do it? By putting together several syllabuses from different universities, and I submitted there, and actually it was finally approved anyway. So I find that very interesting, because I am not an architect. I don't know what I was writing, but I put together a syllabus, and also the other syllabus that we put together of quantity surveying. Of course, I get the help of the Persatuan Architect Malaysia dan sebagainya. And finally, it is a faculty itself today. So, if I were to listen to all the objections of faculty members that we don't have staff to, I don't know what will be the form of the Faculty of Engineering today. But of course, as you know, I must tell you that the Faculty of Engineering UM has produced many highly cited researchers, by the way. Not only that, the Faculty of Engineering UM was a few years ago rated as the 10th best in the world. So I'm happy that in the old days we were thought to be hard-headed dan sebagainya, but we actually performed quite well. So Alhamdulillah, knowing the fact that I have to revamp and I have to bring changes and I have to modernize the faculty, finally we got new programs. Not only that, we got lots of money juga from the government and from industry. I will show you some slides to show that we actually got a lot of money from the government, the engineering faculty itself. That's why we actually went up in our ranking dan sebagainya. Next slide. You see, when I was the Dean of Engineering for 3 years, then suddenly one day, my boss, the Vice Chancellor, iaitu Tan Sri Abdullah Sanusi Ahmad, called me up. And I remember at that point of time, the Deputy VC for Development was finishing off the term. And he called me and told me, Ghauth, I want you to be the next Deputy Vice Chancellor for Development. He called me. So all of a sudden, I never expected this. And he told me, I've been scratching the bottom to the barrel. That word tu kan, I never forget. And he wants me to be the Deputy VC. So, okay. And actually, I was not long in the job. I remember it was 1 year, 8 months only. And what really he wanted me to do, at that point of time, UM has been given quite a lot of development budget. If I'm not mistaken, close to 200 million. But the spending was very slow. Projects was slow to take off. to be launched dan sebagainya. So when I was brought on board, that was what I did. I really push and I launched all the project that was already planned to be done. I push all of them. I push the estate office engineers, QS, and so on to support this agenda. I discipline many contractors was trying to cheat the system dan sebagainya. And Alhamdulillah, we were able to bring back the 200 million ringgit that was taken away by the ministry because we didn't spend it earlier. So again, what I'm saying here is when you are given the task, in this case, I was given the task by the Vice Chancellor, Tan Sri Abdullah Sanusi Ahmad, please launch the project, get back the money. But because you are able to do this, the ministry was sympathetic and they gave you back all the money. And not only that, you get all the projects done, you see. So at the end of the day, it's all about pushing and making sure things work out. Okay, rather than we have to wait for this, wait for that, it doesn't work. Life doesn't work that way. You have to be a driver if you want to be a leader. Okay, and I still remember one classic case. I just put one example di sini, where I remember the Chancellor of the University, Sultan Azan Shah, was mentioning that we need to produce more IT graduates at that point of time, and it turned out that at that point of time, the biggest problem was of capacity. There was not much space dan sebagainya. And I actually remembered what was said by the Tuanku Chancellor at that point of time. And after hearing that, I actually wrote a note to the Vice Chancellor, Tan Sri Abdullah Sanusi. I told him, Dato', at that time he was a Dato', let me build an additional facility for the Faculty of Computer Science in He said, sila urus. And I took that, yes, he agrees for me to do it. I actually launched this project without any budget. There was no budget at all to start off this project, to call the architect, QS, and to call the contractors and okay. There was no budget. But I just push it. And interestingly, at the end of the day, the ministry gave us the budget actually. We started off launching it without any budget, without any approval, but it was later approved. And actually, I still remember that years after I left, there was a audit done on all this. So one of the things the audit noticed was that the acquisition of this new set of buildings for the Faculty Computer Science was not done in a proper order, where budget must be there dan sebagainya. So I was actually given a strict reminder that this must not happen. But by that time, I was already in MMU lah, you know. So anyway, I was happy to have done it because, well, the building is there today anyway. So for young leaders and sebagainya, I hope by showing you some of these things that I've done before, please, if you really want to be an effective leader, be ahead of others, push your agenda, make sure what you do is of benefit to the university, to the country, and you must not have personal agenda in this. Because if you don't have personal agenda, if you don't have any conflict of interest, nobody can cash you for anything, you know. Ultimately, it's only for the institution. But I'm not suggesting that you must be crooked, okay? Never at all. But you do because you want things to get things done dan sebagainya. But sometimes when I talk to people and they say, what if suddenly people cash us doing it wrongly dan sebagainya, I say, well, if people cash you, you answer for it lah, you know. Because at the end of the day, if you do it well, if people recognize what you do, well, credit for you. If you do wrongly because of your foolishness, you answer, you know. So this is the basic principle. But so far, in my life, I've never been questioned by SPRM ke police ke apa, never, you know. So again, for young leaders who are watching this, you know, your mind should be that you are always trying to get things done, sorted out, and bring up your system, your institution up to capacity so that you can be competitive and so on. Next slide. Now, I just want to share one or two experiences when I was in Multimedia University. This was the first private university owned by Telecom, and like what I said earlier, never apply for any jobs dan sebagainya. So actually it is true. Suddenly this thing comes to me. I still remember the vice president of Telecom and his general manager, senior GM, came to ask to have lunch with me. And suddenly they proposed they want to take me as the CEO of, at that time they call it University Telecom, not Multimedia University, but a year later I changed it to Multimedia University. Okay, since they really thought that I could do the job. Actually, I don't know why they chose me, but they offered me, okay. Then I talked to my boss, the vice chancellor, and he said, yeah, he thinks that I can do the job, go ahead. So I actually went on to University Telecom on initially on a secondment basis, but immediately I went there, I wrote to Dato' Abdullah Sanusi that I want to be released and I want to get early retirement. So actually, finally, I was given early retirement lah, at the age of 40. I became president of Multimedia University at the age of 40. Now, over the period of about 12 years that I was president of MMU, the student number peaked at 22,000 students, both postgraduate and undergraduate. The staff numbers close to 2,000. We built two campuses, Melaka and Cyberjaya. The Cyberjaya campus was a brand new campus. Okay, the Melaka campus, we did a lot of renovations. It was at one time the top ranked Malaysian private university, and it was already profit making from the third year of operation. Now, what would be the challenges in a private university at that time? I'm not saying that the challenges of a private university today is the same as what it was 20 years ago. Tidak. There are bound to be changes, to be differences. The biggest problem actually I have with being the president of MMU was trying to make the parent company, Telecom Malaysia, understand what the academic culture and what the academic system is. For example, very often when I want to send staff to go on seminars or conferences abroad dan sebagainya, I have a lot of objections from Telecom, because Telecom says normally those who are GM level or senior executive level that can go for seminars dan sebagainya. But I said all academics have to attend conferences dan sebagainya in order for them to exchange findings, exchange knowledge dan sebagainya. So this is one culture which is so difficult to make Telecom understand, but again, like everything else, I force it on Telecom. Now, because of this sort of thing that, my relationship with the Telecom management is what I would describe as a love-hate relationship. Sometimes they love me, most of the time they hate me. But I have no choice. Because if I don't do that, then we will need to just accommodate ourselves and fit into the telecom punya system, where the telecommunication system is a telecommunication business, which is quite different from the education business. So to do this, you really have to be tough, because here you have the parent company who actually gave you money to be set up dan sebagainya, and you are most of the time trying to rebel, you know. So but there's no choice. So a lot of time you have to have thick skin, muka tebal to bring along to suggest all these differences dan sebagainya. But alhamdulillah at that point of time, I think we were able to perform such that the student numbers went up to 22,000. By the way, the number has gone down significantly for various reasons today. As you know, a lot of private institutions pun having problems. I think it is down by 40% at the moment, you know, which also does mean that there'll be it will have affected the cash flow dan sebagainya lah. But that is the current president's problem lah. But I was happy that when I set up this institution from nothing but to a point where it became the top private university, and along with that, there were several individuals that end up becoming vice chancellor, become presidents themselves, and I think all of you would know Tan Sri Professor Chua Hian Tek. He was for a long time the president of UTAR, but who has just retired last year. And Professor Yu Hong Tat, who is the current president of UTAR. Professor Shahrin Sahib, who became the vice chancellor of UTAM. Professor Lee Zawei, he is currently the president of College University TAR. Dr. Abu Hassan Ismail, he went off to establish his own institution, and I have many more which I cannot list here. So I think those who were with me from the early days, I think they saw how they can perform as a leader, and I'm glad that they are continuing to make the contributions in other institutions today. Next. I want to pick up a few memorable events in MMU for the benefit of everyone, yeah. Because let me tell you, there are a few occasions in MMU where I was already preparing a resignation letter because of certain problems where I felt that the best way out was only to resign lah. But it never came to that. By the grace of God, I survived one after another. And I still remember the most unforgettable incident was this issue about median of instruction. And this was basically a clash with my very, very, very good friend today, where at that point he was the Minister of Education, where he actually directed all the private institutions to only use the Malay language. He doesn't even allow English to be used. And I pointed out to him that this will be a problem for us because we will have problem to attract international students and sebagainya lah. I will not want to go into detail on how I sort it out, but finally I have to actually use my chancellor, which is Tun Siti Asmah. When I was the president of MMU, Tun Siti Asmah was the chancellor throughout, and this problem put me in a very difficult position because I really don't want to use the chancellor punya influence, but at the end I really have to tell her, and she was willing to help, and she said the only way to help is to bring this matter because it's a matter of policy to the Prime Minister lah. So because of that, I got into big trouble with the minister lah, because I brought it to the Prime Minister basically. So he was very upset with me, but I felt I have no choice. I still remember that meeting when he told all of us, I think 20 IPTS CEOs, to follow this instruction, and I told the minister that no, we cannot do that. And after a few times I kept objecting to it, and he told me I'm a hard-headed person, you know. And when I told him that I would have to refer this to Dr. Mahathir, because Dr. Mahathir The Multimedia University is at the heart of the MSc, the Multimedia Super Corridor. So I really have to get his views on this. And he said, yes, I will myself see the PM, he told me. But of course, you all can imagine problems started from there. And for 3 years, I really had a hard time with the ministry. But all those are over. The minister is one of my best friends. Whenever we meet, we hug each other dan sebagainya. So don't think that we are enemies. Tidak. But we were into this as a matter of professional, in the line of professional duty lah. And then in the development of academic programs, because Multimedia University needs to have programs, we need to show the country, to the world, that we have many new programs dan sebagainya. I could count that we were producing new programs, something like one new program every 2 weeks. And I literally tell you that it is like that. So how did I do it? Well, please don't really quote me. There's no such thing as board of studies dan sebagainya. I remember there's one program, just to give you an example. This is called a Bachelor of Financial Engineering, where I told the Dean of IT, Professor Lee Po An at that time, the Dean of IT in the Melaka campus. I told Prof, what are the new programs today? What are the most current? And among it, he mentioned financial engineering is a current discipline, and he thinks that would be a good program to offer. I say, Prof, get it done. I say within 1 month, I want this program to be up and running. He thought I was crazy for saying that sort of thing. But I say, Prof, I'm serious, get it done. The program, the Bachelor of Financial Engineering program is up and running today. It is among the toughest course, but it is among the most highly subscribed program. And of course, another program is the Bachelor of Law program, where MMU is the private institution that has a law program where it's given the exemption from CLP. Okay, so I'm not saying that the way to get programs done is still you can follow my way, but it is all about, if you think that person knows about it, you think the person can do the job, empower him and tell him, please get it done. Itu saja, you know. So that's my style. Sometimes you have to wait for this and wait for that, kind of slow lah, you know. But of course, at that point of time, we were the first private university, so things came on board is faster lah, you know. But of course, when we first started our program, and this is also one of the reasons why the minister was very unhappy with me, was because we ran program without getting approval. And that's why at one point of time, the minister actually rejected all the programs, even though I know from Lembaga Akreditasi Negara at that time, is called LAN. The LAN boss told me, Prof, actually all the programs are approved, but then the minister, you know, tak setuju lah nak bagi MMU. So this is where the problem is. But all those programs are up and running anyway today. So but to get all those going, you have to go through all this pain. But at the end of the day, I'm happy that MMU was leading in terms of offering new programs and sebagainya at that time. And I still remember another issue where, you see, sometimes when you try to do all this, you really step on the foot of others. People are not happy, and all kinds of horrible things they will do to you. But do not be discouraged by that. In fact, I have a case where I still remember that I actually terminated the service of one senior academic because of certain unethical practices. I didn't even convene the disciplinary hearing dan sebagainya. When I get confirmation that he has done it and I saw the proof, as I told the director of human resource, please draft a termination letter. I want to sign it this afternoon. And I actually terminated the professor. and actually I ended up being sued. MMU and myself was sued for about more than 10 million ringgit lah for that termination. Well, as I said earlier, when you do something, if you are brave to do something, you must face whatever consequences that comes along with it. So I have to sort it out, and actually at the end of the day, the thing was settled. The legal suit was settled, but to get the board to agree on the way of settlement was the hardest problem to me. It is not really settling the issue with this senior academic, because when this matter was brought to the board members had got so many diverging ideas on what to do dan sebagainya. And the worst thing is the board members, some board members were saying, shall we investigate the president himself? Why is he not following procedure dan sebagainya? There should have been a disciplinary hearing dan sebagainya. That I cannot accept. Entah by the grace of God, the chairman of the board, Tan Sri Osman Yop Abdullah, at that point of time came up with a brilliant solution after about 2 hours of debate. He said, Ghauth, you go and negotiate, see what he wants, And I negotiated with this particular academic, and I said, no, whatever you want, that 10 million all is no go. We don't have the money, we'll never give you. Then he knows that he has to go down. Finally, it went down to 6 months of salary saja. So the board was happy to accept offer of paying 6 months salary, and that's it. He went off. But we prove a point that we do not take ethical issues lightly. We are prepared to throw away anybody who actually cheat the system. So this is the main thing, but it was tough what we have to go through. And finally, this managing relationship with the parent company, Telecom Malaysia, as I said, Telecom wants all subsidiaries, because Multimedia University is under a subsidiary called UTSB, University Telecom Sdn Bhd. And they have a uniform common policy for all subsidiaries. But the problem is, if we follow this common format, subsidiary policies across the board, we will have problem. I've given one example where if you want to send people to attend conferences and sebagainya, it will be very difficult if you follow the policy. Only the senior professors can go. So I have to do a lot of this negotiation and arguing with the company dan sebagainya, to the point that at that point of time, even some Multimedia University staff was saying that we have a president who is very unfriendly with telecom dan sebagainya. And of course, there are telecom people who hate what I'm doing dan sebagainya. But you go back and ask MMU staff today, they now understood why I have to be like what I was then. So now they understand that when you don't have such a president who could stand to the forces within telecom, then at the end, one by one, the freedom is taken away, and then you just have to conform lah, because you don't want to have all this all this fighting and so on. But so that will be the problem. Next. I realize that I have 10 minutes left. So now I will go to and try to clear this quickly. So after I left MMU, after being there for 12 years, I left MMU December 2007. Then I was immediately offered to be the CEO of Unity College International, which is today City University in PJ there, in Asia Jaya Tube train station. So I was there to be the CEO for 11 months. But in that year, I was interviewed twice. First for the job of the VC of UTM, and the next was an interview for the VC of After the interview for the job of the VC of UTM, the minister called me and said, well, I don't know who told him this, and I don't even think that way, but he said, Ghauth, I heard you prefer to be the VC of UM. So we will call the interview a few months later. So I didn't get the job lah, UTM. But later I was called for the UM punya VC job. I was interviewed, and I still remember Tan Sri Jalaluddin, who was the chairman of the selection committee. He asked me only one question: what would you do to bring UM up again? Because in his eyes, UM was not already the premier university. And of course, I explained that I bring back academic excellence, I bring back superstars and so on lah. So there I was, I became the VC of UM for 5 years. When I went into UM, these are some of the issues that I saw there. Deadwoods, resistance to change. There are very hardcore staff, students, I still remember the percentage of staff who has a PhD in UM at that point of time, if I'm not mistaken, was 67% only, even though some of them has gone PhD and didn't get that. Okay, now the language competency issues, people cannot really teach well because their command of English or Bahasa Malaysia not good. A lot of staff at that time was talking about how great was, but they forgot that actually other universities have come up. Entrenched culture of mediocrity because they think they have always been good, but actually the culture of mediocrity was coming in. There was issues on work ethics. A lot of them say they are connected to this minister lah, to the prime minister dan sebagainya, and therefore, as a VC, I have to respect and listen to them also. That's what they mean. The bureaucracies and the autonomy and so on. So these are all the issues, some of the issues that I have to face. Actually, the job of the VC of UM at that time was the toughest job. It was easier to set up Multimedia University and fight telecom, but it is much harder to revamp UM lah. But like anything else, as I've mentioned before this, you have to face the problem head on, show your good intention, and you mean business, that you will not compromise on certain fundamentals, and you just have to do it. So for example, I just want to bring one example where I said there are 300 staff who has gone to do PhD and didn't get the PhD. So I actually call all of them and I tell them, look, you all have been sponsored to do your PhD. Some of you have come back 10 years, 15 years, tak dapat. You have not got your PhD yet. I say from next year, I'm going to deduct your salary. Each year you didn't get a PhD, it will be 200 ringgit a month. The following year, you still haven't got your PhD, it will be increased to 400. And if you have not got in the next coming year, it will be 600 and so on. It keeps increasing. Actually, the staff union was really mad. It went to the newspaper. They wanted to sue me. They want to bring me to the industrial court. They say, it's not written anywhere that to be a lecturer, you must have a PhD. You only need a master's degree, you can be a lecturer. But I kept this instruction that keep cutting the salaries until they show they have the PhD scroll. And trust me, I was never sued. I was never brought to the industrial court. But a lot of people, those people who didn't like all this actually created a lot of problems. But yeah, man, I'm happy. But I think today the percentage of academic staff with PhD is 90 above, I think. But this was the situation when I went in 2008, many years ago. Okay, so there I'm giving an example whereby this is an unacceptable scenario in one of the leading institutions in Malaysia where so many people didn't get their PhD. So you mean business, you get it, or else you'll keep cutting. So by God's grace, nothing happened to me, but the thing changed. And I actually put a gentleman who himself was someone who didn't get a PhD, but later, because of hard work, that he got the PhD after 15 years, I believe. and I made him as the head of this unit to chase all these people. And I think I made the right decision, because somebody suggested that it's a big mistake to put somebody who has failed himself. And they suggested, why not we bring the best academic to lead this? I said, no. I want the person who has himself failed and being able to make good his position to be the head. And I think I was right lah. But unfortunately, this gentleman, the arwah lah, but he has done a great contribution to to push all these academics to get their PhDs. Okay, in order to bring into the top again, I have to introduce a few initiatives. So these are the initiatives in the number one is the KPI, and we call it the Standard Academic Performance Targets. And what is it? Here it means that we only count ISI journal publications, we look at citations, we look at each index, we do not count your conference dan sebagainya. Now there is a difference between arts and science, yes. For the arts, we require less number. But for the sciences, engineering, medicine, we require higher numbers. By the end of the day, everybody must be able to publish in ISI journals. And not only that, in order to help the staff dan sebagainya, I actually told the minister to give us a special budget, which I call high impact research budget. Where I said, if Dato' at that time was the Dato' Khalid Nordin, the minister, I said, Dato', you give me this money, I promise you I'll get into the top 100 within 3 years. But I know it's impossible to be done at that time within 3 years, because it requires many more years. But I promise him, I impress him lah, that he knows that I'm serious to do it. He said, Ghauth, prepare the paper, I put it to cabinet. And we were actually approved 590 million, okay, budget for high impact research. And that is the reason why we were able to do so many of these things. We go on to the next slide. Among the interesting things that I did, you see, nobody should ever say that, why we talk about ranking dan sebagainya. Hey, look, we have a transformation roadmap, and not only that, we have the Malaysian Education Blueprint. All these targets, in terms of ranking dan sebagainya, are all in those documents, So I'm not doing something out of my own thoughts. These are already laid out for the higher education of this country, and this is from the government anyway, from the Ministry of Higher Education. So please, it is in those documents. And I think if you are managing a university, it is best that if you can be competitive and try to get to the best position, because you get a lot more by being able to get into the top, and rather to be at the tail end, you'll be respected more, and industry will want to listen more to you dan sebagainya. There'll be greater respect for you. Next. And this is actually at the point when I left which is 2013, was not in the top 100. So actually I failed in my promise to the minister. But the great thing is that had the money lah, But by 2020, it was ranked 70. 2019, it was ranked number 87 in the world, alhamdulillah, So I'm happy for that it has actually broken into the top 100 lah in the world, But I think the special high impact research budget did wonders to the system. And let me just point out that there is this publication which actually compares a few universities in the world. And then you have professors who kept telling us is the best, dah lama dah dia punya ranking and so on. But I say, where's the evidence? Where's the proof? You keep telling me is the best. Show me the evidence. Nobody can ever show me. But I found this graph which shows comparison from 1981 to 1996, how was in comparison to the others, and you will see. Okay, if you see that the punya performance in terms of publication in SCI journals, it is almost flat But in the early days, Nanyang Technological University was below and you all know where Nanyang today is. It is in the top 100 or top 30, I think, in the world today, But was there constant, and yet other universities, if you look at the graph, it was progressively going up. So I made a statement, look, has never reached the top position, was never in the top 100. But how come everybody's claiming that it's the best? So they were saying with the evidence lah. Okay. But I got into a hot soup with this because some senior professors say, oh, the VC of menghina is looking down upon his own university. But I was referring to this graph, Okay, I was very well aware that in order to be a top university, you must have three things. One, you must have high-performing, talented academics, talented students. You must have a big budget, and you must have the vision and the leadership. So these things must be there if you want to go to the top. And I think this is true. This is actually from a World Bank publication by J. Salmi. You can read it up yourself. So three things: top academics and students, big budgets, and strategic vision and leadership. This is extremely important. Okay, just to digress a bit, during my time as BC, I got the 590 million budget, special budget. These are all special budget. 150 million special budget for engineering, and 100 million for science-based faculty to replace all the outdated equipments and so on. Because of that money, we were able to employ 4 Nobel laureates to work with under the high impact research budget, which before that was never able to employ. So we had these people working with our researchers in the lab. Okay. Then we were able to produce highly cited researcher. You see the gentleman on the left, Professor Saidul Rahman. He was from mechanical engineering. But subsequent to that, we produce many more in engineering. The highly cited researchers. The other two gentlemen is UKM and USM. But in 2014, we have only one, Professor Saidul Rahman, who is a Bangladeshi. But we set the pace, and we have many more, and some of them have left also. This is what we are trying to actually create from all this effort. We were able to we created a scheme called Bright Spark, whereby any students who graduate with a 3.8 CGPA out of 4 automatically will be given a PhD scholarship. I created this too. So because of that, suddenly the number of postgraduate students, high quality postgraduate students increased drastically. Anyone with 3.8 or above, 3.8 or better, will get automatic scholarship. Again, this is from the high impact research budget. We were able to employ academic icons. Apart from the Nobel laureates, we employed in each faculty several top professors from around the world to work with our academics. Okay, so those are the things that I did in I'm coming up to last few slides. I was for a period of time in the private university, which is MMU. Later, when I left I was brought into the board of Sunway University too. So I'm quite well exposed to private institutions. And I've been very long in okay, being board member, SBC, and before that, STNC dan sebagainya. Times are very challenging. As you know, with the pandemic, I think it has hit the economy of all countries in the world, including our own country. The future is a little worrying, but please be aware that we live in challenging times where I know some private institutions, their salaries are cut or they are not paid salary. They have to reduce staff drastically, because a lot of private institution was very much tuition fee based. So that's why they are affected this way. Of course, public university is not so bad because the government is guaranteeing our existence. Of course, cuts on facilities, amenities, and many for sale. Now, this is very challenging, and it'll be a good challenge for anybody who wants to show their leadership ability. How do you save universities dan sebagainya? If you are looking for a nice problem, a nice challenge, there are plenty today in this country. Okay, not only in the public institution but in the private. Because at the end of the day, in the private institution, nobody guarantee your existence. Is your ability to bring students dan sebagainya in order to sustain the university. But is that really the model that we can go on for forever? I don't think so. So these are some of the challenges that we have today. Next. Just trying to share with you that as currently I've already even told the ministry that I promise that I will create a 1 billion ringgit endowment for UPM by 2022. Why? Because I think if UPM is to become the top university in Malaysia, they need this money. Actually, 1 million is the minimum. 1 billion is the minimum. They need a lot more. And I'm working hard on that. Of course, I hope none of you will ask me how I'm going to do that, because this talk is not about how to create endowment. Okay, but maybe in 2022, I will be willing to give a talk on this. What are my other personal KPIs? I want to set up a private specialist hospital. I also want to buy over and establish a large private university. And I want to venture into agriculture and food security for the sake of the nation. So these are my current challenges. Even though in this pandemic I've been sleeping a lot more at home, but actually I cannot sleep because thinking of all these problems that I brought onto myself. But these are just to share with you that, you know, top leaders actually survive on problems in their head all the time. So you never rest actually. Next. Thank you all for listening. I've done okay 1 hour 10 minutes. So Prof. Nick Myran, thank you for inviting me again. And I think the next 50 minutes we are open to question. I hope please don't ask me too difficult questions. Thank you.
Ya, Asri.
Boleh.
Yang Encik Ahmad. Ada siapa-siapa, Encik Azman? Okey, sementara kita tunggu soalan yang akan diutarakan Tan Sri. Boleh tak Tan Sri bagi komen on generation gap, ya? Sebab ramai staff-staff di universiti sekarang ni kebanyakannya muda-muda belaka, ya, yang lecturers. So the top management tu kebanyakan otai-otai semua. So how
Prof,
you suggest atau bagi nasihat? Yep.
Prof,
Hello?
I can't really hear what you are saying.
You cannot hear?
Dia macam, ya.
Okay. Putus-putus ya, maybe the connection.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I'm asking you about generation gap.
Yes.
Generation gaps between top managements and young lecturers or young staff.
Okay.
What is your opinion about this?
I think this is where the senior staff of the university must go down and talk more to the younger staff. Because, you know, I remember when I first started in UM as a young staff, I was struggling too. Because I don't really know how to perform. Nobody really guides me. Nobody tells me how to apply for research grants. Nobody tells me how to improve on my teaching, what are the support dan sebagainya. So the university must create a system whereby you have senior people to become the role model and to show the way for the younger staff. This is how you close the gap. And I think there are a lot of senior staff who are most willing to share their experience, their ideas dan sebagainya with the younger staff. I really felt at a loss initially lah for the first few years. But then again, I don't want to give up. I find advice from whom I think can give me the advice. And finally, I got the idea, and I can see the way on how to perform as an academic. So we need role model. We need staff to be talking to the younger staff dan sebagainya. And this exchange of ideas, this guidance, does not need to be only in the office dan sebagainya. It can be in the coffee shop dan sebagainya. Wherever you can, wherever the young staff can get in touch with senior staff dan sebagainya, go. I mean, don't be afraid to approach anybody, because at the end of the day, what can a senior staff do to you if they don't like you? Most important thing, you gather ideas and you associate with them and you get ideas from those who want to share lah with you. So I think this is the way, Prof. And kalau the system, the management can come up with this kind of ecosystem, that be very helpful for the younger staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Tan Sri. So,
Assalamualaikum, Tan Sri.
Nation is about. Okay, teruskan. Siapa yang bertanya tadi?
Shardi here. Tan
Okay,
Sri,
Shardi ya.
Shardi here from UMK. Tan Sri, you have said if we put a belief on people to do a work, we just hire or appoint him to do the work lah. But we work as a group. Sometimes we believe this kind of people can do it, but our friend or our deputy, we have a different thought about the people. So how can we deal together?
Okay. If I get the right point about your question, you see, Doctor, I think there's no ideal way of recruiting people. Very often you look at the CV, very often you have to talk to them dan sebagainya. But there are always ways of correcting the process of what you have done if they are not correct. If let's say you don't get the right people, because at the end of the day, the right people will want to survive in the right system, and people who cannot fit themselves because they cannot perform dan sebagainya, they will also fizzle out at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, if you are within the system, if you are the head of a section dan sebagainya, and you're not happy with a certain person, you have to be frank with them. You have to tell them, look, you are not meeting the KPIs. Look, you are not collaborating with others dan sebagainya. And whoever is in a position of power dan sebagainya must advise. And if they refuse to improve dan sebagainya, well, sometimes the tough actions has to be taken into it. So we have to look at the particular situation. We have to look at the scenario where this has become a problem. But I think we should not be discouraged just because we got the wrong staff, because throughout my life, I've recruited staff who are not fit for the job because of wrong information that I've got dan sebagainya. But you are not ideal, you are not Superman, you are not always correct in what you do, but you correct when you have to correct, because there's no such thing as you are always perfect in whatever you do, But a good leader must be able to correct when you know that things are not like what was expected. I hope that answers your question, Doctor. Okay, next question.
Thank you, Tan Sri.
Okay, Assalamualaikum.
Hi, Tan Sri. Oh, okay.
Okay, Zaifila, ya.
Zaifila, all right. Assalamualaikum Tan Sri. I'm Zaifila from UNILeeB. All right, Tan Sri, you have been in the IPTA and IPTS. What the main challenge, the difference that you see to manage the IPTA and IPTS? Because we know IPTS, we are more on the what you call profit incomes. So, on your experience, what the most challenge things that you have been for the Yes, correct.
Okay. So I get your question. What's the difference between public and private, especially in terms of financing dan sebagainya lah, and management. You see, the biggest problem with private institutions today, they are very much tuition fee based. So when you have problem with the funding agency like PTN, or when there are pandemics where student numbers goes down, so the income goes down, so they can easily go into the rate. One area where private university has not really looked at is to look at endowment, like some of the top universities in the world. So the way forward is to really quickly look into how you can create endowment. And actually the word endowment has been talked a lot lately in the last few years. But nothing concrete has been able to realize. Because actually finding money is not easy. Actually money is a very difficult thing to get. So we need people who can come up with ideas, better ideas on how to create endowment. Because at the end of the day, if any institution is just depending on tuition, you are really very risky lah. Now, in the public university, the government guaranteed the existence. But lately, with the situation with the economy dan sebagainya, there have been cuts, and the public universities have been told to look for more money, and the government is not going to give all the requests for annual grants anymore. So even the public university pun is progressively is experiencing financial difficulties, and this is also the reason why I promised UPM create a 1 billion ringgit endowment. So when it comes to financials, I think the situation in the private university is more desperate, whereas in the public is not so bad because it has got government guarantees. But with the pandemic, I think the situation could be more serious because the government pun ada, as you know, the government also said that it has been a challenge to the country because of the pandemic. But in a private university, they have to be much more innovative to create the endowments. Because if not, they will not survive. No way this can last for a long time. But of course, in the private university, the hire and fire concept is there. You are the CEO, you are on contract. If you don't perform, you go. In the public university, a lot of the vice chancellors are permanent staff. They are professors. So if they don't perform, they will still stay on lah. But I'm one person who is advocating that actually the top criteria of any VC now would be their ability to source funds for the university. This has to be the top priority alongside academic excellence and sebagainya, but I have to admit that we have yet to see how long this pandemic will persist and how bad the economy gets before we can really say how bad the financing of universities get, but we know it's not so good lah. Okay, next question.
Assalamualaikum Tan Sri. Saraf here.
Salam. Yeah, Saraf. Yes.
Saraf here. Tan Sri, I'm going to ask you a very easy question. Like you said, if you were given a chance to head the Ministry of Education, what are the top 5 things that you wanted to change and you want to make Malaysia as the top destination for education?
Saraf, this is a very difficult
I know
question
you
to
don't like
answer because I don't want to be in the Ministry of Education. I prefer to be on the ground,
I know.
addressing problems and issues in the institutions or starting new in the ground. Because I think all this policy making, giving directions, we leave it to the brighter people lah. I mean, I prefer to sweat myself out down on the ground. But obviously, if I were to attempt your question, whoever is in government must promote academic excellence and quality. This is a must. This is a must. And secondly, the ministry should urgently look into giving the autonomy and also create, abolishing this AUKU and creating a new ACTA for the public and the private institution. I mean, which the previous government has been talking about. I think it is a very good thing. We must really be brave to actually give autonomy because that will be the incentive for institutions that are capable, because many of them are saying that they cannot do this, they cannot do that because of the bureaucracy dan sebagainya. So give it to them, let them perform, rather than we keep controlling things and nobody can really perform lah. Of course, some people will argue, really isn't there autonomy dan sebagainya, but I think the model is that is the university able to move fast enough? Is the university able to make their own decisions in regard to many issues, especially financing dan sebagainya? So this issue of autonomy is extremely important. I mentioned about academic excellence, which is the most important thing. Of course, number 3, if I were there, which I said I will never be there, is actually putting KPIs to institutions, to the top management of universities and to the board of universities to raise money and to become more autonomous. And no, there should not be a single top management person in a university or any board member that says that it's not their job to look for money for the university. Because if these are not the people that we expect to look for the money, then who else? So this is a very difficult thing, but it is a very urgent thing, knowing that the funds for university dan sebagainya now is in question already, so this would be the 3 topmost things that I will seriously address, and I hope we get real change in these 3 aspects and we get real direction in this, so that our university can be very competitive, can be very independent, and then produce good results at the end of the day and can be recognized globally. I think we have done well, but I think we have to do more. Thank you, sir.
Shukran, Tan Sri. Shukran. Thank you.
Afwan.
Okay. Next question, please.
Okay. Assalamualaikum, Tan Sri.
Waalaikumsalam.
Dari UMK.
Waalaikumsalam.
UMK. Nick Zulkarnain from UMK. Okay. So you see the high achievement lah. Tan Sri have go higher achiever. So can you give some tips for maybe young leaders or maybe the current leaders to be more highly motivated to pursue the achievement, after another achievement? Go for another achievement to another achievement.
Okay. Okay. So in other words, apa ni? Zulkarnain kan?
Ya saya.
Okay. So what you are saying is how to create the motivation dan sebagainya kan? You see, ni it comes to a point in your life where if you can be self-motivated, that is the best. Whereby you don't need others to give you direction dan sebagainya. Because the real winners, the real performers, they set their own vision, and no matter what the challenges, no matter what the problems, they are very focused and they are not distracted. And therefore, in your case, I think you are Professor Makya now. Why not you set yourself the target to be to be a professor very soon? Nombor satu. Of course, to be a professor which is recognized because of your contribution, your bidang, your research, your teaching, and not jadi professor because you know some people. Okay, so that's number one. Secondly, I've just been telling in this talk, the country, the universities are facing great problems. Why don't you think of how you can contribute into bringing in money into the university? And I tell you, many people have problems to answer this question: how to bring in more money into the system. So this is a good challenge, and why not challenge yourself to be doing this? And believe me, if you set yourself these problems and one day you are able to solve this and sebagainya, the satisfaction comes to you, and that satisfaction will motivate you further. Because at the end of the day, let me remind you that if you are self-motivated, that you can motivate yourself to do higher level work and sebagainya, that is the best scenario, rather than you always have to depend on people to motivate you. I really think that should be the way lah. If you really want to go very far. And do not ever be discouraged because of problems that you have, challenges that you have, that you apply for this, you never get, you didn't get the research grant you want. Don't be distracted, don't be discouraged. This is normal, this is life. See? So just stay on the course and don't give up until you get what you have set up to do. Is that okay, Nick? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Can I ask you, actually I have two questions.
Yes, please.
I am Nik Syamuddin Muhammad Noor from University Tunisia on Malaysia, UKHM.
Okay.
Okay, you have mentioned in your talk that lecturers have to be involved in business.
Yes.
Okay, but looking on the current scenario amongst our universities, that now we are quite aware, well-versed in publication, research publication, in academics, writing, scopus, ISI, and so on. But we actually, academics are not really aware or really well-versed in business. Okay, for example, some of our fellow friends, fellow academics, they have conducted a lot of consultancy works. That also one type of business. Even though in the services, they're selling the services, but they also do some businesses. At the same time, some of our academics, also they have, for example, they establish spin-off companies. Okay?
Yes.
Yes. But still, at the end of the day, at the end of the years, they still will be a question about the academics or the research achievement. How about the paper publications, book publication, regardless of a lot of things they do in income generation, but still they cannot run from publication and so on. So what are your opinion? The question that I want to ask you is, what your opinion in terms of strategic distribution of KPIs among lecturers? Some might be strong in publication, some might be strong in income generation. So even though we have the forwards in our MEB, but still I'm not sure that, I don't think it will fully implemented by universities.
So this is your first question. Your second question?
The second question is about ranking things of academic universities in the world. As I mentioned in the talks, last time they focus on QS. You have QS rating, QS ranking, Times Education, U21, Shanghai, and even in our local universities in Malaysia, we also have MIRA, Malaysia Research Assessment Rating. Okay, but at the same time, when all public universities established in Malaysia, almost all universities have been appointed to focus on certain categories. For example, Arius must focus on research, MTUN must focus on industry collaboration, UMK must focus on businesses. But then at the end of the day, when we talk about MIRA, the set that being divided or that being set for each university are all the same. Regardless of initial stage, you mentioned you have to focus on business, you have to focus on industry, but at the end of the day, the distribution of ranking is still the same. So what do you think about that?
Okay.
And what should we do to move forward?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Now to answer your first question, your name is Nick Hishamuddin, kan? Yeah, okay. Nick, when I mean business and entrepreneurship, Nick, one is what you do with your research. You want to market it. You want to create startup. That's one. But there are a lot of people who have their own personal business. They never tell the university betul. Okay. And who is there to tell you, hey, you tak boleh buat business lain? You hanya boleh buat whatever you have told the university. When I was an academic staff, when I was dean, when I was VC, I have my own company now. Because at the end of the day, my thinking is simple. If we can have an academic staff who can become very rich because apart from doing dia punya academic work, research dan sebagainya, and can actually be successful in business, that's exactly the kind of people we're looking at. Because if all the academics boleh generate duit, I think we are better off that way, rather than everybody that cannot raise money dan sebagainya. You look at some of the Western universities, Scandinavian universities where I have been, they have no problem with staff trying to set up their own companies. And I know I have been to one university I think it was in Sweden, I think, where if the staff set up their business, if they go bankrupt, that's their problem. But if they make billions, that's their money. Dia tak akan kacau. I think that is a better scheme rather than we try to control everything. At the end, we can't really perform well, But of course, if ever you do business on your own dan sebagainya, there is an ethical requirement that you have to declare, and you must make sure that your formal duty takes priority above your personal business. So you must be able to manage these things. And I tell you, Nick, do business, make yourself rich. If I was the VC, I'll be very happy with people who are able to make money on their own. By the way, even if you start business and you fail, I think it is all right. Because we don't want academics yang takut sangat dengan nak buat business, nak take risk. At the end, I think they're unfit to talk about entrepreneurship dan sebagainya. And yet, we have come to an era where you need the top management to be entrepreneur, to be looking at how you can do business and generate income dan sebagainya. But you have never been exposed before. How are you going to get into this sort of discussion? So I really place great importance in that. Now, on your second question, in terms of the requirements, in terms of ranking dan sebagainya, I think this particular issue is for the vice chancellors of the MTONs dan sebagainya, technical universities to, if they think that there is a kejanggalan in terms of what is being set as KPI and what is the sort of duties and responsibilities that the staff has to, they have to sort this out with the ministry. But I do understand that you cannot have all the universities in Malaysia to try to become in the top 50, top 100 in Malaysia, tak boleh juga, because universities have been set up to fulfill certain function, roles dan sebagainya. But to me, what is important, whatever you have been set to do, you must do it the best you can, deliver the best. Itu paling penting, Jangan half-hearted dan sebagainya, satu. Dan keduanya, I'm sure in whatever position you are in whichever university, there are set of KPIs where they will define you. You are good, you are excellent, you are lousy based on whatever achievements there. Tapi yang pentingnya, your institution must be able to make a mark globally in whatever field that you want to be, because I believe that no one institution can be the best in everything. It's impossible. Even Harvard cannot be the best in everything, So perhaps in your university, you can be the best in a certain area, and that's a great achievement. But most important thing, everybody must do the best. Jangan half-hearted, jangan, everybody must be excellent in whatever they do. And those are the people we should promote. I hope I've answered your question. Okay, thank you.
Assalamualaikum Tan Sri.
Waalaikumsalam.
Nama saya Jasmon Tan Sri.
Ya.
Ya, just I want to ask.
Azman
daripada Universiti Malaysia Kelantan.
Okay. Yes.
Just I want to ask you about your opinion. What is going to happen to our education industry, especially university, after this COVID-19? Because as you said just now, to become the best, everything's about budget, about money. And after this, as you know, I'm very sure that the government going to cut a lot of budget to the university, and it's not easy to find grant after this, because especially the company also have a problem, and then endowment also I think it's not that easy to find. So what you think? What is going to happen to our education industry after this?
Okay, Azman, thank you for the question. How I will answer your question is this. Nombor satu, to give the proper accurate answer to this is difficult at this stage, because I don't know how long this pandemic will be. When will the effective vaccine be found, Because if we have to continue with this movement control for a long time, I think the damage is very serious, And a lot of countries, including US, UK, they are very, very restless now, because if their people have to remain at home all the time, memang susah. The economy will be destroyed. So all the leaders are in a very difficult situation to decide when to open up again, when people should go back to work, when school children should go back to schools, when university students should go back to university. So to answer your question, a bit difficult, but all I can say is definitely there's going to be an impact on everything, and certainly in education, in higher education, like public university, where it is being sponsored by government budget. I think there will be a hit on the university budget dan sebagainya. But if you look at it, this is why I say those who actually has the ability to help generate funds, those are really the most useful people now, actually, But the problem is, I think before this, even though we say that people should place more emphasis on creating their wakaf, their endowment dan sebagainya, but we don't have KPIs on this. We don't really push people into doing this. So really, to answer you, we have to be very, very serious now in making sure whoever is responsible in the university system to look for money, they really go and look for money, and we must put KPIs on this. And among those, in my opinion, that should be given the KPI to look for money is the top management as well as the board members, because I think these things have to change if we want to survive into the future. It cannot be like before anymore. board members must be given KPIs. And after having said that, that means how we remunerate the board members pun kena different lah, because you know the board meetings are once in 2 months and they are only paid an allowance. But if you expect them to perform, I think we need a new set of people who can help to build up the endowment and so on. So this is basically my point. You know, this very challenging time. We have to see how long we will go in this pandemic. But at the end, whoever has ideas on how to raise money, they are the most useful people at this point of time. Terima kasih. Sama-sama. Sama-sama.
Okay, Dr. Satya Bama from Razak School, KL. Do you want to give any questions, or you can read your questions?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Satya Bama.
Dr. Satya. Dr.
Okay.
Satya.
Yeah.
I don't hear anything.
No. Maybe I can read it. How did you doing now to groom younger staff or generation? Any specific engagement? Any specific engagement to groom younger staff? This is from Satya Bama.
Doctor, I've read your question.
Yes.
But I don't really understand. Can you say it slowly?
Yes.
Say it slowly.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Please. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity. So you are currently with UPM and the university that you belong to. Do you have some specific or special engagement? Of course, we are in the pandemic, MCO and all. But then, if at all you have, please share with us.
No, I don't really get that last part. Say it again.
To groom the young researchers, young management people, of course, it can be the PPE staff. So overall in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I got it. Okay. Now, you see, I remember in the University of Malaya, which I think in UPM they are also following this thing also. We make it compulsory for academic staff, especially the young staff, to be a member of research groups. We tell them that they must tell us which research groups or which research centers and so on they want to be with. And then they will, apart from doing their teaching and so on and reporting to the head and the dean, they will also have to report to the research group head and so on. So we make it compulsory. In other words, staff cannot not be in any research group and so on. They cannot be on a standalone at all. You know, that's one. Secondly, now when they join any university, there are set KPIs. If you are a lecturer, you are senior lecturer, what are the number of publication you have to provide to give every year? What sort of students you must be supervising and so on. So this, in a way, is actually making them, committing them into actually doing all those that they must do in order to perform as a good researcher, as a good academic, and so on. We did this in UMM, and I know that in UPM also, every new staff member has got all these KPIs that they have to fulfill. I don't know your institution whether you have this, but we cannot escape this setting KPIs and so on, because with KPIs, the staff will know whether they fit into the system or they don't fit into the system, one. And secondly, the management also will know whether their targets can be achieved or not achieved, because the university management has a duty to target certain positions and so on, whereby from every staff members, they will need to deliver such and such. So I think in public university like in UM that I know, and also in UPM, that there are all these KPIs that are in place. Thank you.
Yes, Tan Sri, thank you very much. So even in UTM, we have both this top down and also bottom up. So bottom up is what we are trying to enjoy. We as researchers and academicians, we are trying to enjoy the moments, and then at the same time trying to achieve the KPI.
Yep. But having said that, trust me, I think the university that will eventually come on top will be the university that will have the biggest endowment, no matter what it is. UM can be in the top 100 today, but there's no guarantee in 10 years it will still be in the top 100. And a very young university, but if they work hard and they are able to actually create big endowments to fund their progress dan sebagainya, they could be number 1 in Malaysia in 10 years time, you know. So nothing is fixed. The whole system there's a lot of dynamics in it, where things can change by the year. So don't worry about it. But the rewards for being able to perform and so on is very high. It is worth working hard to get to become the top 100 and so on. I think there's a lot of benefits of doing that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tan Sri.
Okay, any questions?
Assalamualaikum, Tan Sri.
Waalaikumsalam.
Saya Kamal Ruzaki daripada UTHM. It's a quite general question. How you describe your leadership style, Tan Sri? Because some people might see you as a bold person and less humanistic. And does this, that criteria is good for a leader, especially for the young leader to follow nowadays?
Okay. You're asking about my leadership style lah.
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Zaki kan?
Yeah, betul.
If you ask me about myself, I think I'm horrible. My wife always complain about me. Believe me or not, she will say I'm lazy. But I know one thing. If I'm given a responsibility, if I'm given a task, I would fail if I don't deliver. And in order to deliver, especially if you are required to transform an organization dan sebagainya, there are elements of motivating people, but there are elements of taking tough action to set the KPIs dan sebagainya. So I would like to think that when I went to UM, I think my biggest job was to transform UM from an institution where they think that they have always been the best into bringing the institution to become really the best. And to do that, I have to bring in money. I have to change the ministry punya attitude towards UM. I have to change the staff yang who fail to get their PhD to really get back on track. We have to tell across the board in UM that the statistic shows that UM has been lagging behind dan sebagainya. So I like to think that I am transforming. In a way, I am also transforming, bringing some of these elements into UPM, because in the last few months, I've already told management to set new KPIs based on ISI journals dan sebagainya, and I told them we must require all staff to publish only in ISI journals, no more in in Scopus journals and so on, and I've told them to do that as soon as possible, because we have to be competitive and we have to get into the top 100 within the next 5 years. And that is why also apart from insisting that UPM should be changing in terms of their KPIs and sebagainya, that's why I'm setting my own KPIs that I will have by getting a 1 billion ringgit endowment within 3 years. I have another 2.5 years to do that. So, inshallah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Tan Sri, there is a question on the chat from Selvin. Okay, he asked you about your opinion on such requirement. The requirement about the first degree and master's or PhD must be from same field. However, he thinks this limits the sharing of knowledge with the students. So what is your opinions on that?
Doctor, this is, who is the person asking the question?
Selvin.
Selvin.
Yeah.
I can't see his name here. Trying to read his question. Oh, Selvin A.
Yeah.
Okay, to me, a lecturer at university, the stress on requirement of first degree must be from same field. However, I think this limit hearing another. Selvin, to answer you, I'm not aware of this requirement because I've seen people doing electrical engineering first degree and then finally getting PhD in economics. I've seen this. So it all depends on the requirements of the faculty, the requirement of the dean, and so on. Generally, if you are in electrical engineering, they expect you to do PhD in electrical engineering, yes. But I think there's no hard and fast rule because at the end of the day, if you ask me, if I'm in a position of authority in university, if the person who wants to do PhD can show that they can really perform and become excellent in another field, oh, I welcome that. I have no problem with that. It is at the end of the day all about whether you ni performer ke tidak, you know. And when we speak to a person, I think we can have a rough idea whether the person is actually artificial or whether he's really solid. So I think this is not really an issue. I think you have to justify why you want to change another field. Okay. I think there's a question here is asking about what is the criteria to be a VC. Okay, Encik Marwan Ismail, is that right? Ya, Tan Sri, apakah kriteria yang digunakan untuk memilih naib chancellor di IPTA? Well, there is a committee in the ministry. I think 5 or 6 person inside the committee which interviews prospective candidates. And of course, at the end of the day, the final authority is with the minister to decide whom they want as the VC lah, you know. But generally, of course, the criteria is that the person must be good in their academic work with good track record as a researcher in their teaching, has had the experience of being a dean, deputy VC, and so on, and hopefully can show that they have industry links. They have the potential to bring in funds into the university dan sebagainya. Secara general, those are the things. But of course, at the end of the day, the committee actually will submit the recommended names to the minister, and the minister will decide. So that's how it is lah, the system now. Okay, thank you. Next.
Okay, the next question is about from Chi Kwan, maybe the Dr. Chi Kwan. Tan Sri and UM were the same university last time. Why today NUS is on top 20 while UM is top 100? What's the difference between these two universities in terms of management. So why
Okay.
can lead in top 20 while is in top 100? Please advise.
Okay, this is a question from Chia Chi Kwan. Why NUS is in the top 20 and is top 100? Okay, several reasons. What I know, because I also know used to know the vice chancellor of NUS and also board members of NUS, because when I was BC of we have annual meetings dan sebagainya. Of course, NUS gets a lot more money from their government. Also, NUS gets very big research grants from the government. I still remember President Tan Toh Chuan, the president of NUS, told me that at that point of time, NUS gets 400 million Singapore dollars every year from their government. Okay, so that's many times the budget that gets lah. So of course, with more money, they can employ Nobel laureates, they can employ the best professors dan sebagainya. That's one. Secondly, I think the Malaysia ni, we may have to be aware of certain sensitivities when we handle managed institutions and sebagaimana and so on, where Singapore may not face the same kind of challenges. But nevertheless, if we have good leaders, they'll be able to balance all this and still put the university on track to become a leading university and so on. In fact, I would think that for to get into the top 100 in QS has actually surprised so many people lah. But of course, we want to go higher dan sebagainya lah, so I think the principal reason is budget, and secondly is we need really good leaders. If really we want to bring all these universities in Malaysia forward, we have to be serious in putting good leaders. And you understand what good leaders, what I mean by good leaders based on the earlier slides that I've shown you just now. It's not just leaders who want to survive in their position, but leaders who are high risk takers, who are courageous to bring change and to bring the system forward. And I think to find good leaders is not easy. It is really not easy, because I remember Tan Sri Abdullah Sanusi, when I was the Deputy VC in he said that, in there are 2,000 over academic staff, and he said, I'm scratching the bottom of the barrel, which means it's not so easy to find good leaders lah to get into the top management. Okay.
Okay, there is question from Prof. Rose. Do you like to ask Tan Sri directly, Prof. Rose?
Rose.
Yeah.
Prof. Rose.
Yeah, Tan Sri. Assalamualaikum, Tan Sri. It's really nice to hear from you again. Right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. My question is that, there are some people go for the 4-track systems, but some like a resistance to that. Yeah, the 4-track system that's going to be, in fact, it's already being imposed by the Kementerian dulu, but cuma guna pakai belum lagi dibuat sepenuhnya oleh semua universiti lah. So I just would like to have your take about this, because early in the beginning you said that one of the criteria for an excellent lecturer in the future is that they must have an entrepreneurial punya ni. So my take is that entrepreneurial not just thinking but also in terms of behavioral. So what's your view about this 4-track system? Thank you, Tan Sri.
Okay. Thank you for the question. Ideally, we should have all these qualities inside the academic staff. But of course, in life, to have everything in a person, and dia boleh the person can excel in all the areas that you mentioned, may not be easy. But I think for each of these areas, there must be a minimum cut-off point, you know, in order to qualify them to be called excellent, you know. Certainly, if you want to be promoted to be a professor, you must have certain minimum in terms of your teaching, in terms of leadership dan sebagainya. But I must admit, not all professors can become leaders. But there are professors who can be very excellent in their research. They can create a national centers of excellence. They can get distinguished professor, okay, title dan sebagainya. They can get awards, but not necessarily they can be good vice chancellors, good deans dan sebagainya. But I think for someone to get those promotions that we mean, they must meet certain minimum standard for each of these areas. Then, if we do that, then I think we bring the capability of the university higher. I'm never in favor of they can be good in this area, but they allowed not to be so good in certain areas. I think academics must have reached a certain minimum standard for each of these areas. I really want a professor to have good links with industry. I want professors to have leadership skill, because how can he manage his research group kalau dia tak ada leadership skills dan sebagainya. Because you know, you may find a professor at the end of the day is so destructive because he just cannot manage others, and at the end the research group he leads cannot last very long because people are not in harmony with one another, you know. So again, my thinking, there must be a certain minimum of some of these qualities in a university. However, when it comes to a medical faculty of a university, dia lain pula. There needs different streaming, because you need professors who are very good at research, but you need also professors who are very, very good in their surgical work. Because you know, a lot of these medical doctors, you know, you cannot expect them to do so much, and you can see under this pandemic how the doctors are working very hard. So in the medical faculty, there are different streams. Those who are super surgeons, but there are also the super researchers dan sebagainya. So, but in general, for the rest of the university, from engineering to science to languages to economy to business, I think there should be a minimum of each one of them. And if they don't achieve those minimum, they shouldn't be promoted, in my opinion. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Prof.
Dr. Anis.
Okay, Prof, carry on.
Kita dah pukul 4 minit. Ada lagi ke yang terbuku di dada yang nak tanya Tan Sri before we call off our discussion today? Kalau tak ada, Tan Sri, thank you very much for session. Cuma sedikitlah sebelum I wrap up, sebenarnya sesi kita hari ini, Tech Talk ni is meant for talent excellence development talk, dan hari ini kita nampak participants kita ni is the young talent that of course in the future will become our leaders up to Vice Chancellor. So very good advice from Tan Sri, dan juga pengalaman yang Tan Sri share dengan kami tu, insyaAllah kami akan do our best. Dan remember, Tan Sri will always available kalau siapa-siapa nak tanya on personal consultant, ya Tan Sri.
Welcome.
Jadi sebelum saya akhiri sesi kita ni, Tan Sri ada sepatah dua kata ke, advice ke, whatever for the young leaders kita, please, Tan Sri.
My last few words will be this. We live in challenging times now, especially with this unexpected pandemic, because you look 6 months ago, we don't even think that the situation will be like this. But if we really love the nation, if we care for the nation, if we have a good heart for other human beings, We must rise to the occasion, and we must stick on to our responsibility and do a good job of it. We must not give up. We must not be disheartened just because we have these problems now. Because this problem is being faced by all over the world. And you can see how bad the situation is in Italy, in US dan sebagainya. So this is a new opportunity for all of us. So if you really think you want to be a good leader, you want to be an excellent academic, make sure you can adjust yourself and still perform as an academic under the current circumstances. But believe me, the pandemic will go away, and those who stick and who are focused to the academic excellence, which is their primary role, we will do well and we will rise again quickly after the pandemic, because at the end of the day, we want our country to be recognized, to be known as another center of education excellence in the world. And people must recognize that our academics are really great, even though there's a pandemic, but they are still on top of the world. So don't let this pandemic bring you down. Make it as a challenge that you will stay high and you will raise the flag of the nation. I think that is the most important thing that I must say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So with that, that is the end of our Talent Excellence Development Talk, which is TED Talks for today. So this is the last series. Then there's an assignment for the UNILeeB participants. So thank you very much. Thank you also to all participants. Kita jumpa lagi for next circle of our TED Talk. So with that, thank you Tan Sri, thank you everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.